And hello everyone, it's Tom. It is FANzine Live, and today is our new releases video. And this is a very, very unique new release. It is Blackout. So you can see Blackout. And I am going to skewer the names of the authors, unfortunately. It is by Serigraph Studio, Anna Ivanenko, Xenia Polosina, and Alexander Vironadov. This is published by Yakubu Press out of Kiev, Ukraine. And yes, this is a book about the war in Ukraine. I read a piece a while back, I believe it was on the Comic Journal, and they were suggesting that zines, that self-published materials, and that comics are actually some of the first draft of history. And to that end, I've been very interested in the war in Ukraine. I'm a political science government major. I did some work in college on the European Union and the like. So things related to the Ukraine war and Russia obviously are of interest. And so I've kind of had an interest in these types of books and comics all along. So I'm going to share with you a couple others. This is 83 Days in Mariupol. It's a war diary. Mariupol, of course, being a truly heroic stand by the Ukrainians as the Russians came in. This is done by HarperAlley.com, Clarion Books. It's a really nice book about the war in Ukraine from the Mariupol point of view. This is another one. This one is from Fantagraphics. This is called How War Begins, Dispatches from the Ukrainian Invasion. I believe this is where I read the Comics Journal piece. This is the one. Fantagraphics books. Another really impressive book. This one's got some color in it, but not a ton. Very impressive again. You truly learn so much. I mean, these are local artists and cartoonists, but the internet is an amazing rabbit hole to go down. And I was wondering, were there any zine makers in Ukraine right now? And lo and behold, I found this company. What do they call it? Yakubu, I believe. Yeah, Yakubu Press out of Kiev. And so I sent out for it. The book itself isn't super expensive. The shipping, of course, is probably about as much as the book. Largely because, and I believe they even say on the publisher's website that it's difficult to get reliably get mail in and out of Ukraine. The Russians seem to have some issues with letting things work the way they should. But let's take a look at this. This is Blackout. And the first thing that I love about this is you immediately start with yellow. And as you will see during the book, yellow is the answer to the blackout. Yellow is light. Yellow is power, like electricity power. And it goes even further and further beyond that. But where there is yellow, there is hope in this book. At least that's how I interpret it. And this was a 2023 book. It's hasn't been out very long. But as you can see, when the book opens, we're at the end of October 2022. And notice how they tell you how many rockets landed that day. 33 rockets landed that day. And so you have these two ladies, two characters. I'm presuming they are the cartoonists, the writers and artists of this book. And they provide a little bit of a narrative thread to the book. And truthfully, there isn't a whole lot of narrative thread, but the vignettes that they present are that much more powerful. And so when there is light, you don't need the yellow. But then, as you can see, we're now jumping into the dark. And they talk about the issues of not having electricity and things that you don't have when you have electricity. And fascinating is the dependence on the digital devices. And so, I mean, we're talking about working as long as the laptops hold. And talking about pages not refreshing, my connection's dead. 50 rockets on Halloween, October 22. And I like this bit, this section. This was the habits that one gets into when they have a blackout. Notice your yellow for the candle. And then, of course, their comments. Charge all your gadgets when there's power. How to walk in the dark, because everybody's got flashlights. For many, for road safety, people are wearing reflective clothing at night. Knowing about the sound of the generators, no one really likes it, but they understand that that's where work can get done. The subway. Move your workplace to unexpected spots several times a day if necessary. They grab their laptops, go to the subway. It has Wi-Fi and works as a shelter. Filling your bathtub during alerts to have a supply of water. The candle. Another candle. Listening to the radio. Having candlelight dinners. Trying desperately to hold on to some level of civility in life. The radio, of course, works. But then the power's down again. 96 rockets on November 15th of 2022. Of course, the network's down. And they jump to the radio and they hear about the rocket strikes. Talking about distributing the water supply. How they put the Christmas tree, the main Christmas tree, in a subway station and using energy-saving technologies for its lighting. Talking about how wood-fired stoves are making a comeback in Ukraine. So where does the yellow come from? The heat of the fire. But of course, yellow also can imply the heat of a house fire. And I like this. It says, fire. Somebody's sending out a text. Call the firemen. It's burning. Gets worse and worse and worse. If someone sees it, the house is on fire. And then it says, fire breaks out during a power cut. There's no connection. Neither calls or messages arrive on time. When the firefighters got to the place, the house had completely burned down. 67 rockets on the 23rd of November. Can you imagine that many rockets flying through in a day? And this is talking about the book itself. They're in the dark, the two people, the two ladies, and they're sharing ideas with each other. I can't stop thinking about the cover of their book. What can sum up all these stories? A little bit about the botanical garden. Now notice the yellow here represents life. These are the flowers on the cactus. And the tropical plants are slowly dying because there's not enough heat. You've got the lizards. It says, my brother pours boiling water into bottles to warm his chameleon. And the yellow is the tongue of the chameleon, talking about how people have brought their fish to the aquarium in the Donetsk region because they had to keep their fish alive. But they can only turn, because the power is off, they can only come in every now and then and saturate the water with oxygen. They talk about how bats like to hide out in the basements, and so they keep the lights off. Dogs having headlamps attached to their collars. 70 rockets on December 5th of 2022. Talking about how the messages from friends ask, are you okay? What should I answer? And of course, they're scared to death and they just say, tell her how our week went. Everyone we know has a blackout shelf, food that can be stored for a long time without refrigeration. So of course, they've got that and they're trying to figure out what they can take, but they shouldn't take this stuff because it's for when they have a blackout and they don't know how long they would lose power at a time. This one talking on Tuesday about the power of keeping their computer on. This one, a store operating an art shop in a basement, so it becomes a shelter. I like this. Are you open? They're hollering from upstairs. Yes, we're open during blackouts and during air raid alarms, a flood, a tornado, but not after 6 o'clock. They have to go home. This one on Thursday, they're talking about what happens because the streetlights go out when they have blackouts as well, and how people actually just get out of their cars and start directing traffic. Going to the dentist in the middle of a blackout. This one is an interesting story. Actually, there are two stories. This is the story of a person who is risking going into an elevator. They're not sure they really want to, because what happens if you get stuck? And in this case, there was a lady who had actually had a baby in a stuck elevator. Children going to school, both offline and online, adapting to the new conditions. The resilience of kids. I mean, we've seen it with COVID and you see it here. At first, he was afraid of the dark. He even came up with this lamp on his forehead. So now he's a dwarf or a miner and it's fun. And he says today, I'm an emergency rescuer. But the yellow, the light, allows him to do his work. Another one says that Zaporizhia and Kryvyi were hit. And I'll just write, we're okay on my phone, her phone. So now they're talking about when they go to print and they're talking about perhaps checking in on their printer. 76 rockets in December 16th. Talking about the printer has an amazing challenge because of course you can't use a generator. So they actually have to go live, but production doesn't just stop for a period of a shutdown. They need several hours afterward to restart their process. This is the glue. It heats up for 2 hours. Whenever there's no power, it goes cold. So, I mean, this printer is lucky to be able to print, which makes a book like this to me that much more precious. I looked and I do not think I think this was made in Ukraine. I don't see anything about being printed out of the country. So just fascinating. Tragic. This is interesting. I hadn't known about this. This was they call them points of invincibility. It says with the shelling of critical infrastructure, the government started opening points of invincibility throughout the country. In administrative buildings, schools, and tents, specially equipped places were set up where citizens can warm up, get free hot drinks, recharge their gadgets, and contact their families. And they're saying there are as many as 11,500 points of invincibility deployed. So look, you've got this tent, like an army tent. People are at tables. You can see all the chargers going into the power strips, and all they have to show people that there's a point of invincibility is a flashlight shooting up into the air. "20 rockets on New Year's Eve 2022. There are explosions outside our window New Year's Eve. And they are not New Year's fireworks. Those are explosions, my friends. And I like how all the different lines, dialogue lines, are going to a single balloon that says, "Glory to Ukraine, Putin's a loser." Then they show how everybody celebrates the new year, each in their own way. And there's yellow. Sometimes not a lot. This one has yellow on the tea bag. Little yellow in the background on the computer. But yeah, so now they're trying to figure out how they want to end their book, because they can't really end it because the war's not over. 38 rockets. So they say, let's try to do something life-affirming. And they're saying how hard it is to be life-affirming under these circumstances. But then, and I love this, you flip to this page and there's this blast of yellow. This is "Every morning the sun rises, the streets come to life filled with light so that we can clearly see how to fix what was damaged, how to fight for freedom and live on." Little kid, nothing but hope and excitement. And then a wonderful dedication, not just to the armed forces, but the energy workers and the like. The doctors. Really impressive. It's a great book, and I'm so glad I got it. Thought you'd enjoy seeing it. I'll have the information in the show notes on, actually, for all three books. Here, I'll put the others out as well. What I would suggest is, in the case of the Blackout book, is the link is going to probably require you to have a translator on your website if you don't speak Ukrainian or read Ukrainian. These two are available domestically, and so those will be easier to find, but Blackout's a little harder to get. Anyway, that's what it is. The first draft of history, tragic as it is. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'll catch you next time.